The sea has a particular way of keeping secrets. It doesn't hide things exactly. Sometimes it does the opposite. It hands something back to us, whole and undamaged, and lets the emptiness inside it do the talking. A message with all the words removed. A house with the lights on and no one home. In December of 1872, the Atlantic handed the world exactly such an object. A two-masted merchant ship named the Mary Celeste, discovered 400 miles east of the Azores, sailing on her own. Sound hull, cargo stowed, food and water for half a year. In the cabin, a woman's melodeon and a 2-year-old girl's toys. In the crew's quarters, their boots, their pipes, their letters. Everything a sailor owns and everything he'd never leave. And no one, not a body, not a note, not a sign of struggle. 10 human beings, a captain, his wife, his baby daughter, 7 seamen, subtracted cleanly from the middle of the ocean, as though the sea had simply reached up and taken the people while leaving the world they lived in untouched. Tonight on Dark Thread, we follow the true story of the most haunting ship in maritime history. Not the legend, which is eerie enough, but the truth, which is worse. Because the legend is a ghost story. The truth is about 50 feet of gray water, slowly widening. Dim the lights. Let's board her. Begin where the finders began, because their experience is the purest form of this story. Picture the crew of the Dei Gratia on that December afternoon. A sail on the horizon where no sail should wander, moving wrong, the way a ship moves when nothing living commands her. 2 hours of watching through the glass. Hails across the water, and that specific quality of silence that answers when a thing that should contain people doesn't. Then the pull across in the small boat, the climb aboard, boots loud on an empty deck, and the slow understanding, cabin by cabin, that they are walking through a world that ended mid-sentence. Water sloshing in the hold, but not enough to matter. Sails set, but torn. A rope trailing off the stern into the sea, ending in nothing. Remember that rope. And on deck near the pumps, a sounding rod, the tool a man uses to measure how much trouble his ship is in, lying where someone set it down and never picked anything up again. The boarding party would have called out at first. Everyone does, in an empty house. And the sea, which had watched everything, offered them what it always offers. The horizon in every direction, and no comment. They found the log. Its last entry was 9 days old. For 9 days, the Mary Celeste had sailed herself, through winds and darkness hundreds of miles. A ship faithfully keeping course toward a destination where no one aboard was expected anymore. Because no one was aboard. Now, the legend, and why the truth beneath it is darker. You may know this story with different furniture. Meals still warm on the table, tea steaming in cups, the crew seemingly evaporated between one bite and the next. It's the version the world remembers, and it's fiction. Literally. It was invented 12 years later by a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle in a magazine story. And his inventions bled so deeply into the real case that they've never fully washed out. The warm meals are a ghost that haunts the record, not the ship. Strip the fiction away and you'd expect the fear to shrink. It doesn't. It changes temperature. Because the true scene, no warm meals, but instruments deliberately taken, papers gathered, a lifeboat launched, not lost, describes something more intimate than a vanishing. It describes a decision. 10 people didn't evaporate. They left, quickly but carefully, taking exactly what careful people take. Stepping off a working ship into a boat perhaps 20 feet long, in the middle of the Atlantic, on purpose. The horror of the legend is the supernatural. Something took them. The horror of the truth is procedural. Nothing took them. They went. Calmly, sensibly, for reasons that must have seemed overwhelming in the moment. And the moment has kept its silence for 150 years. The most chilling sound in this story isn't a scream. It's the quiet, orderly scuff of 10 pairs of feet climbing down into a small boat, one of them carrying a 2-year-old. Here is where the dark thread of this story pulls tight, because the evidence followed honestly leads to a single, almost unbearable image. The hold below their feet carried 1,700 barrels of raw industrial alcohol. And when the cargo finally reached port, 9 barrels, only the 9 built of porous red oak, were empty. Their contents had seeped away on the voyage, somewhere into the ship's sealed air. Now stand where Benjamin Briggs stood, a cautious, God-fearing captain with his wife beside him and his daughters caught in the cabin, when the hold began to breathe fumes, when perhaps something rumbled or hissed beneath the hatches, when the arithmetic of 1,700 barrels of spirit presented itself to a father's imagination. The prudent move, the loving move, is the one the evidence suggests he made. Everyone into the yawl. Not abandoning ship, standing off from her, tied to her by a long line. The halyard, waiting at a safe distance for the ship to vent her fumes and prove herself safe again. A temporary precaution. An hour, perhaps, of bobbing in the swell at the end of a rope. The baby wrapped against the cold. The ship, their home, their food, their whole survivable world, sitting reassuringly at the other end of the line. And then the wind freshened. And somewhere along its length, the line, old rope, bearing the surge of a boat in a rising sea, parted. Is it inside that moment? The ship sails set, feels the wind, and goes, as ships do. The boat cannot follow, small boats can't chase brigantines. And 10 people watch, first in confusion, then in the specific dawning that has no name. As everything, food, water, shelter, the child's toys, the letters home, the future, sails away from them at a walking pace. Then faster, growing smaller with a terrible patience, until the Mary Celeste is a shape. Then a smudge, then a memory on an empty horizon. No villain, no monster. 50 feet of gray water, becoming 100, becoming forever. The Atlantic in December did the rest, and the Atlantic does not narrate. The ship, meanwhile, obedient to the last, sailed on for 9 days and delivered herself to the world. Intact, faithful, and empty, the only witness, and mute. The Mary Celeste sailed for 13 more years before being deliberately wrecked for insurance fraud in 1885. But the 10 people who vanished in 1872 left no bodies, no lifeboat, and no answers. The tethered boat theory remains the strongest explanation. A reasonable decision, a dangerous sea, and perhaps a rope that snapped. But we'll never know for certain. 10 people disappeared while their ship sailed on without them. The sea returned the evidence. It kept the answer. Sleep well. Mind your ropes. Subscribe to Dark Thread for more true stories told in the dark. Keep questioning the mystery, and never stop looking closer. Because sometimes the truth hides in the smallest detail. And remember, sometimes the smallest detail stays with you. See you in the dark.